Hello there, today I'm here with Alex and we're going to talk about how video games have really changed over the last generation. Because, of course, PS5 is coming out and, yeah.
It's dummy thick.
Yeah, it really is. So I just thought, good topic. Right, one of the things I found most annoying about the generation, and many people can agree with me on this, many of the games in this generation have really started having microtransactions. Most of the games I can think about that aren't just related to only story, that have a multiplayer section in them, have all had major microtransactions increasing in them. And that's okay sometimes, but the microtransactions have gotten in the way of single player games as well. I remember Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I could not get past one of the sections, and the only way to do it was to buy some skill points. Yeah, you didn't hear me wrong. Not actually get past the section with a different different strategy. No, I had to buy skill points because I didn't get the correct skill at the correct time, and the only way to get out was to buy more skill points. So at that point I just gave up on the game, and that was a single player only game. So what would you have to say about microtransactions?
Well, I think it's still annoying that sometimes they're in games, although you don't really need them. I think in Far Cry New Dawn there's microtransactions, but whilst you don't really need them, it's still kind of annoying that Ubisoft tries to milk more money out of you.
But in Far Cry New Dawn, you really didn't need them. The challenges were brain dead, and you will always have enough skill points. And if you want to upgrade another perk like a billion times, of course you're not gonna have enough skill points to upgrade something a billion times, but you're always gonna have enough money.
Yeah.
And I think this all started from GTA 5. Now we can all agree GTA 5 on the PS3 and Xbox 360, it was a really solid game, right? Even the multiplayer. But then they moved on to PS4, and in those years they started milking the microtransactions. Now I want you to do an experiment. If you have GTA 5 and you go on the online mode, don't buy any microtransactions and just sweat the game out for like weeks, you will still be mashed to the ground by people with flying motorbikes, I don't know, just crazy stuff that they invested in with microtransactions. Everything in that game has become a mess of microtransactions. The only way to get the cool stuff, the cool, funky, weird stuff, is through microtransactions. And many people just give up on this online experience because there's no way to actually play it normally and actually grind. So, what do you think of that?
Well, I haven't played a lot of GTA 5 online, but I did play a little bit, and I felt very scared because I knew everyone else would have literally loads of money and tons of really good weapons that they probably got with like the shark cards and whatever.
Yeah, and this all started from FIFA, if you remember. It started from like a FIFA game on the PS3, and the reason EA is called such a greedy company is because they basically started this with FIFA.
Yeah.
And the thing is, right, we've had a whole generation of just paying through microtransactions. And loot boxes, let's get into the loot boxes. Those were really annoying. They were like salt machines. Now, I didn't pay for many loot boxes, but what was your experience with loot boxes, Alex?
Well, I didn't really play many multiplayer games, but I remember particularly when I started playing Battlefront 2 online, that everyone with really good star cards would have got them from loot boxes, and I didn't buy any loot boxes, so I was behind at getting my ass slapped.
And the problem is, especially in COD World War II, the loot boxes just, although they gave you mostly cosmetics, the cosmetics were so hard to find. Whatever you wanted, you'd have to play like the slot machine 50 times, and I'm pretty sure it gave some people a gambling addiction, to be fair. Okay, I'm pushing it too hard, but the cosmetics you got out of it were absolute dog shit. Like pistol grips that you couldn't even see unless you were inspecting the gun. Who the fuck's gonna start playing the game, inspect the gun, just for a stupid ass pistol grip? Honestly.
Gamblers, lol.
And as games have progressed, they've basically really just starting moving away from loot boxes like battle passes, and in my opinion battle passes are way more of a superior system. But what would be your opinion on them?
Battle passes?
Yeah, battle passes. I mean, they're pretty good, but they also probably have their flaws.
Well, I really like battle passes. Although there is the option to purchase more in-game currency and skip them and whatnot, you know, you get rewarded for actually playing the game. I think Fall Guys is a good example of it, because you don't even need to pay for the battle pass. You just need to play the game and you level up.
Yeah, and paid battle passes, the only problem I could think of for them is you're paying for the whole battle pass, but some people are only gonna get to tier 50 or so most of their money will be wasted. But
yeah,
the battle pass system has its flaws because it's not as casual as many other systems. Now, we can all think of people that have come home from work late. They're not going to be able to sweat a battle pass, and especially like COD's battle pass, where it takes hours upon hours to get to tier 100. But the battle passes have also come with another strength. They've originated from battle royale games, something really new that came out basically in this generation.
Yeah, I think the first big one was PUBG, but they didn't really have a battle pass until later on.
Yeah, PUBG was the first battle royale game. Now, we all know PUBG had a lot of problems, but it was really creatively, let's just say, not copied, but it inspired Fortnite, which, while I hate to say it because I hate the game myself, it was a creative take on the Battle Royale formula, and it really sprung up the Battle Pass system and some really good systems in gaming. Even though it's a game I don't like, I can appreciate that it did some stuff that it took risks, basically. It was a really creative game, and it showed us that battle royale games that are free could definitely move into this generation. And it also started a trend of free games.
Yeah. I think one of the most innovative battle royale games recently that everyone's probably heard of is Fall Guys, just because it kind of throws the whole, well, not entirely. It throws the whole PvP focus out the window for a more casual, fun take on things in the form of the mini games and like the courses and stuff.
Yeah, I think we can all agree Fall Guys is a great game, just because it's very casual and everyone can play it, even old grandma can play it. And casual games don't always need to be the top games, but they're always fun. And Fall Guys has just a feel to it. Plus, it innovated, as Alex said, it innovated in the department where it's not really just PvP. Because you don't just grab a gun and shoot another Fall Guy. No, it's mini games. It's not like any other Battle Royale games. I think also Warzone made a big change in the Battle Royale market recently. Now, whatever you say about Call of Duty Modern Warfare and how its content has been handled, we can all see the way they've done DLC, battle passes and paid content has been revolutionary. They don't make you pay a bigger buck for, like, you know, some stupid loot boxes, and the battle passes are a normal price, and you can also gain back enough money to buy a new battle pass the next season. And free-to-play players aren't really just discarded. Actually, I would go on to say free-to-play players are more cared for than players that have paid.
Yeah, I think that the way, you know, you pay for stuff in COD Modern Warfare is a lot better because, like you said, there's no longer loot boxes. Instead, there's packs in the store. You see exactly what you're getting every time you want to purchase one. It's not just a slot machine anymore or gambling.
Yeah, another thing I've seen the rise of in modern gaming is just a reliance on not having the greatest gameplay, but having great graphics. Now, we all love graphics, but sometimes the story and the gameplay just falls off, and the biggest point of the game is graphics. I enjoyed Detroit Become Human, but we can all agree its story was a bit over the top. Let's just say it was not a bad story by any means. It was actually pretty good. But one of the biggest attributes that Detroit Become Human had was its graphics. It's probably one of the best looking games. The Last of Us 2, now they were going for a good story, and you can say, Alex, that the story was great, but one of its biggest attributes was graphics. But I can't really complain, as they tried to make the story good. In my opinion, they failed, but in others, like yours, they didn't. So that's up to personal preference.
Yeah.
And I've also seen a lot of games just making their games, like the game design just has fallen off, and sometimes it has risen. I can think of the past COD games. They didn't do much, especially World War II. I hated the game design in World War II. But Modern Warfare has basically turned the COD formula on its head, and most of its missions are creative.
For example, Clean House.
Yeah,
That's a
Clean
good
House.
mission.
Clean House is a mission that we've never really seen before in COD. Yeah, we've seen stealth breaching missions. They weren't like Clean House. Crew Expandable, Mile High Club, all these missions are still high action. Clean House is more of a tactical mission where you actually feel pressure. There is no civilians in those missions. Well, in Mile High Club there is, but you just save them really easily. In Clean House, it's always tense. There's other missions like Embedded and the Wolf's Den. There are so many missions. The Embassy, well, it was just a shooty mission. It had a really cool mini game.
Yeah, the camera one.
Yeah,
Like Watch Dogs.
like Watch Dogs. And this brings me on to Ubisoft games, because they were at the high and the low in this generation. I'd argue to say that Ubisoft was at their highest when they made Far Cry 3. Then Far Cry 4 came out and people were kind of getting bored of Far Cry. Then Primal came out and they were bashed into the mud. And then Watch Dogs 1 came out, and we can all talk about how controversial that game was.
Because lying gets you badness.
Yeah, many games have lied in their marketing material, and Ubisoft kind of made that a thing that just happens. Like, most of their EA trailers are so not ran on an actual PlayStation. They are so, like, they're not ran in real time. Their E3 trailers look so good compared to the actual game.
Yeah. And back to the whole marketing thing, I think another game that's guilty of this is The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, when they marketed Joel as being fucking alive.
And other things, but mainly that.
Yeah, exactly. And then they made Watch Dogs 2, which in my opinion is one of the greatest Ubisoft games. But it didn't get enough recognition because they lied on Watch Dogs 1. And so Ubisoft kind of makes open world games with bad game design that sometimes get a lot of praise, and sometimes makes open world games with great game design that doesn't get enough praise.
Because of its,
Predecessor.
prequel.
Yeah. I've also realized how in open world games now, there is a reliance on just collectibles. Now, it's been that way since the PS3 era, but sometimes, you know, open world games are actually good to be open world. Like, you know, Far Cry 2, yeah, there was the diamonds and jackal tapes that could be collectibles, but they didn't really affect anything. Or, you know, they were just there if you really wanted to get it, and the open world was worth exploring. But sometimes the open world just feels bland and boring. Now, Far Cry 5's open world is great. Watch Dogs 1 and 2's open world is great. Far Cry New Dawn's open world is great. But in my opinion, there are some open worlds that just feel like copy and pasted land with a few new landmarks.
Shadow of War is definitely guilty of that, because there's about like 5 different sections to the game, and apart from the environment being different, they're pretty much the same thing. So you're just doing the same thing over and over again, collecting the same collectibles and the same amount of them in each location, and it gets very tedious if you're trying to 100% the game like me.
Yeah. Oh, and I think we can all agree with this. Games have lost their, games have not been very, let's just say controversial. And I don't need games to be controversial. Like, being controversial does not make a game good. But there's points in a game that make me feel like the only people that were working on them were SJW lesbians.
Those are the only types of SJWs I can speak.
Yeah. I think we all know a good example of this.
I don't know.
The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Now, you can speak from experience here, Alex, but while I don't feel like Ellie, I don't feel like Ellie is ruined by being a lesbian. I think it doesn't really need to take the center stage. Like, the trailer made it out to be like the whole game was about to, like the first teaser trailer I'm saying, the game was all about Ellie and Dina. And while, yeah, they have a strong relationship and all that, in the game, it's Ellie being an asshole most of the time.
Yeah. To Joel in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, you have to admit that the sex scene between Ellie and Dina is kind of hot. Thank you, Naughty Dog.
No! Okay, yes, definitely, yes.
Yeah, it provided some good reading material.
And we can think of Call of Duty, especially World War II. World War II is probably one of the most horrendous wars that ever happened. And Call of Duty World War II, well, yeah, all World War II games make World War II to be like a shooty, fun place, but at least they have like some material to work from. Like, Call of Duty World War II just censored everything. And I'm not gonna go back to why women were in World War II. Yeah, I know, they made female soldiers, boo-hoo, I don't really care about them in the multiplayer, but when the campaign has a reliance on just showing you that they have female soldiers in a World War II shooter, that's too far.
Yeah, and also I feel like in the campaign, Daniel's, well, maybe a little bit relatable. He's really stereotypical. You know,
Yeah.
His wife's pregnant, he's gone to war, he thinks he's like breaking up with him and whatnot. And the supporting characters are also stereotypical. Like,
Yeah,
got
they're
Styles,
basically
he's just a
all
nerd
the
and
Ninja
stuff.
Turtles. They're basically all Ninja Turtles. But if we think about older Call of Duty games, they all have recognizable characters because they were just so charismatic. Even though they were stereotypical, they were charismatic. I mean, Soap, Price, Gaz, Ghost. They were all really charismatic, and
Yeah.
that made them really good. It was, and controversy in games doesn't need to be the forefront. Like, I know certain games thrive from it, like the Grand Theft Auto series, but controversy is hurtful and good. Now, there are many games that wouldn't thrive from being controversial, like Spider-Man. I can't see why Spider-Man would make its game controversial, because it doesn't need to be. But when a World War II shooter censors everything in its path, that's when we just feel like they're pussies. And while Modern Warfare 2 had its Kiev airport attack, I think that might have been a bit too controversial, but in my opinion it was fine because it pushed the story forwards. And now the problem is, not when a game adds you know, controversy when it's needed, but when it takes it away, when a game takes away all the controversy out of a World War II shooter, like it censors everything in its path that could have made it authentic to World War II, that is when you fucked up. That's when your game gets called a pussy. Because if you censor swastikas everywhere, does it feel like a World War II shooter anymore? No, it feels like a shooter with a reskin of the World War II town instead of a modern town. And I understand that some games can't always have controversy. Like, some games, it just doesn't fit in, like Spider-Man. Games don't need controversy to be good. But games also need to be a bit more, you know, out there. They can't just be stuck in this low comfort zone where they can't really offend anyone.
But it's also good for publicity. Lol.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But what games really thrive or not thrive from controversy in this, like, let's just say, decade?
I mean, I guess, you know, The Last of Us, what was it, Left Behind DLC, that had a bit of controversy, but, I mean, it didn't really go anywhere.
But I don't think the controversy really went anywhere because the game was filled with SJW bullshit. Not The Last of Us 1, but The Last of Us 2, it's filled with SJW bullshit, and the reason it didn't go anywhere wasn't because the Left Behind DLC is bullshit, but because it had lesbians in it. And that makes the SJWs really happy. And that's what I've seen on the rise, just SJWs in every video game.
Okay, so The Last of Us Part 2, Dina and Ellie are lesbians, which is what the entire, well, one of the first trailers was focused around, because the first one was like the whole through the valley sort of shit. And it doesn't, well, it doesn't really focus on Joel and Ellie like the other trailers do.
I think a big problem for The Last of Us 2 was that marketing around LGBTQ people in the game. Now, there is Dina and Ellie, and they have a strong relationship, and many people who haven't actually played video games are happy that there's just LGBTQ in there. But when I don't understand Neil Druckmann, and this is one of the things that I don't understand. The actor for, wait, Lev was the kid, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The actor for Lev, or I don't know if it's an actress, because
Yeah, we don't know.
it's a transgender, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem with transgender people, but he hired him, or her, I can't tell.
Just it.
He hired it because it was transgender. Now, Lev didn't really need to be played by a transgender person. It could have been played by anyone. And I don't really care that Lev's actor is a transgender. I mean, I don't think you can tell very well. But
yeah,
he employed someone just because he's transgender, and his posts on Twitter are all something like this. How do y'all love white men? White men suck. Fuck white men. White men fucking suck. Why do you love white men? All my white exes, go fuck yourself. I only love women. And that's gonna cut it. To be fair, there are some positives. Like, now the games are way bigger and can tell way bigger stories with more details.
Yeah, like The Last of Us and Part 2. Because the little details are basically entire stories.
Yeah. And even though Call of Duty Modern Warfare takes up a whole space station of information, I don't think that makes sense.
No.
You can see why.
Yeah, so in Modern Warfare, the little details are in the guns. The guns are really realistic, and I'm not even an American, so...
yeah, yeah. And the graphics have gotten extremely better. Like, if we look at a game from, let's just say we look at the game from 2013, and then 3 years later in 2016, the games have evolved to be basically just real life, but with mocap.
Yeah, and they can do whatever they want with reality.
Yeah. And VR has also been on the rise. I think we need to talk about that. While VR started off really shitty, it is now a really big trend, let's just say. And some of the games like Half-Life Alyx have really made it a worthwhile thing. But if I was to recommend it, if I was to recommend VR, I wouldn't. It's just not worth the money, because some of the games are so small, they're just like little simulations. VR is not worth the money.
As of right now.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have too many games, like you said. The only real big one they have is Half-Life Alyx. And that's about it.
Yeah, VR is actually kind of boring. Especially PSVR. If you were to do VR on a PC, you're lucky, because PSVR is really lacking.